down, everybody. This is the Institute of War, episode 4. My name is Anthony.
And I'm Garrett X.
And today we got an interesting episode. One of my favorite characters, champions in League of Legends. It's actually probably my best and strongest AP carry, and it is Annie, the Dark Child.
Yeah, frequent first ban in most ranked games as well.
Yeah.
So she's a very, very powerful AP caster that many people just hate going up against, really.
Yeah. Even after the slight, damage reduction that she got on the last patch there, she's still a very, very strong AP carry from mid. Definitely a carry that you have to be careful of to not let farmed up. And, we're just going to go into it and explain how we run Annie and show you a little footage later on.
Yeah, most definitely, just like all the rest of our shows. And before we get started, just want to make sure that everyone knows that we have our YouTube channel at Institute of War Show, and also our Twitter feed, Institute of War _. So make sure you guys check that out if you guys like
our stuff. Follow us there, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll have all our VODs from now on. Episode 3 is still not up, but as of the show finishing tonight, we'll be uploading episode 3 and episode 4 within 24 hours of the show normally, and that way you guys can come back and check it out and use it as resources.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's begin. We're gonna transition over here to our build and mastery page, and you can kind of see the champion. So we'll start off by the skins. I personally run Annie in Wonderland, my favorite skin. It's freaking awesome. But I will give 2 other skins credit. The Snow skin, I forget the name of it.
Frostfire Annie, yeah.
Yeah, and Prom Queen Annie. Those are solid skins because Tibbers looks freaking awesome.
Well, there is one thing that, they made a recent change to it, so it's a little bit more visible, but the nice thing with the Frostfire Annie skin, for those of you that have it or think about getting it, it's a lot harder to see when her stun, her little, it's about an invisible glowing ring that happens around Annie when she has her stun up, and it's harder to see it on the Frostfire skin as opposed to the others, so that's the one advantage to it, I guess.
It's a little more on the white side clear, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool skin. And speaking of that white floaty thing around her, that's called Pyromania, and that's her passive ability. So after Annie casts 5 spells, her next spell will stun a target for, I believe it's like 1.5 seconds.
1.7.
Oh, 1.75, yeah, that's the one. And it's such a great initiation. It is so hard to just handle that, especially if she has Tibbers up, which is her ultimate. Yeah. And we're kind of working in the backwards order, but it just plays hand in hand with her. So
well, it just makes her such a volatile character at any level. At level 1 all the way up until level 18, it's really what makes Annie Annie.
Yeah, if she didn't have the stun, it should be just, I don't even know what to call her, useless.
Useless, that's a good way.
No, so basically we'll start off with her Q, Disintegrate. Disintegrate, just a single target spell. If it kills an enemy hero or a minion, it refunds the mana cost back.
Yeah.
And
so that makes Annie so easy to farm up last hits.
You just make sure you last hit with that, and you always have your mana there. You never lose mana.
I'd say it's pretty much impossible to fail last hitting with Annie's
if you miss your last hit with Annie, what happens once in a while, you misjudge your damage, or you're just trying to pump some extra creeps down. But your mana should stay up reasonably high, like especially in the laning phase early on, until you're ready to drop your full combo on someone at level 6. And next up is our W, which is Incinerate. Incinerate is a frontal cone casting spell, and it's very strong. It's actually your strongest scaling ability of the 3, so besides, of course, Tibbers. And it's fantastic in coordination with your Pyromania, which is your stun of your passive, of course.
Yeah, well, it makes your single target Q turn into an AoE stun, just like with Tibbers. So, if you don't have your Tibbers up, you can get that AoE stun advantage
with Incinerate.
Yeah, so that's the other advantage.
And it's quite the range, too. It's pretty deceiving with the actual the display icon on the game.
Yeah.
It actually reaches right to the tip of it. Like most spells in the game, don't sometimes reach all the way to their maximum distance, but it's very visible, and it's a great move. You'd be surprised how far you can
I think with a lot of frontal cones, actually, it works very beneficial. It just goes a little bit past that. I know with Cho'Gath Scream,
or how about
Mordekaiser's E.
So ridiculous. So ridiculous.
It's one of those things that, if you're not sure you're going to hit it, you throw it out anyways.
Throw it out.
And
you can hit somebody, it can stun them, or it can give you another charge towards your stun on Pyromania. And next up is a Molten Shield. Molten Shield's great for getting charges for your Pyromania. And as well, even late game, it really helps when you have a ton of AP. If you're being attacked, it does quite a bit of damage back to the opponent.
It does.
When they're in melee range, though, of course.
I think when you're over about 500 AP, it starts doing over 200 damage a hit per turn or something like that.
Well, basically, it does a base damage plus, which would be, let's say, 60. And then on top of that, it's about 20% of, like let's say 500, but you'll be getting an extra 100 damage in, maybe an extra 120 damage in. So it really adds up. It's like 200 damage equals out when you're level 18, and it's fantastic.
Well, in addition to that, it also just makes sure the bottle of buffer. It gives you armor and magic resistance.
Armor and magic resist as well, and it charges your Pyromania a little stack there.
Yeah, so if you're ever actually running up to a lane to try and gank it, and you have just one level of Molten Shield, and you maybe 1 or 2 spells away from getting your Pyromania charge, it's always a good thing to cast your Molten Shield in advance and just get that stun up.
Always cast this in advance. It's a very long duration. It's 15 seconds, I believe, and before you get into battle, pop it, because once you go in, Annie's an initiating kind of class, and that's how I play her at least, and very aggressive, especially in team fights. And just have it on there because it gives you that armor, that magic resist, and extra damage if they attack you.
Well, I think the one nice thing about Annie, like you talked about her being an initiating character, is she can jump in there, throw down all her spells, within about 1 or 2 seconds, and then just pop out and wait for those cooldowns to refresh. So, I guess that's the one nice thing about her is you don't need to sit there like a lot of AP carries and kind of be constantly in the fight.
She was really heavily on her cooldowns. And next up, we'll talk about Summon Tibbers. This is her ultimate, probably one of the coolest ultimates in the game. I really enjoy this ultimate a lot. It's an AoE. Basically, you cast your little pet that you're holding in your hand. It's a bear, and you just summon it to
Well, unless you're the legendary Annie, then the bear's holding you.
Yeah, the bear's holding you. Yeah, of course. No. You just drop Summon Tibbers onto an area in front of you, and it's an AoE damage. So anyone in that radius will be hit by the initial damage, and as well, Tibbers has a passive AoE damage emitting from him, so anyone near Tibbers will take damage.
Well, like with most controllable, I guess, summons, if you hold down your Alt key and you right-click on something, it'll allow you to control it. So it's always good to make sure that when you cast your Tibbers initially,
immediately target, cast it. Get your because they're stunned. As soon as you cast it, hopefully you have Pyromania up, or at least your next spell will stun them. You want to make sure you're targeting Tibbers onto them, because if they flash away, Tibbers won't be chasing continually.
Yeah.
He'll just stop, or he'll go to the nearest creep or whoever you're attacking. So it's really crucial to micromanage your summon Tibbers, because Tibbers does so much damage, and if they get away, you put them right on the tower or something, or use them to kill
you
creeps.
can tank towers, so he's great at that.
If you're near creeps in the jungle, use him. Don't waste him. He's up for quite a long time. He has 45 seconds of duration before he disappears, or until he dies, of course.
Yeah.
And he's quite a bit of health now. They've really increased his health.
Well, she's gone through a flurry of changes, and I even with the buffs and the nerfs.
Well, the nerfs on Tibbers a little bit, but
she's still.
You need him. He's viable. Good, He's amazing. And those are Annie's abilities and her passive, of course. Now let's hop over to let's just talk about, I guess, since we're talking about the abilities, let's go over like the way I usually skill her up.
Sure.
I start off with Disintegrate most of the time, unless you have a planned team fight. When you can charge your Incinerate, which is your W, your AoE cone damage, you can get your charge right in base before you even leave. So as soon as you start the game, you know you're gonna have a team fight. You talk with your team on like Skype or something, and you know you're gonna be entering the jungle. It's sometimes good to have that ability up, because it's a lot of damage and it stuns anyone in the radius. So right at level 1, and that's fantastic for an early game team fight.
Oh, most definitely.
And if you're not planning to do that, grab Q, which is your Disintegrate, and then what we talked about, it refunds your mana on any minion kill. So it's your farming tool. Basically, you want to point in that either level 1 or 2, and that's going to keep you going through the lane phase without any mana problems.
Yeah, most definitely.
So what we have is, of course, Disintegrate level 1, and I like maxing out Incinerate first. I see other builds where they max out Disintegrate first. Because it's on a quick cooldown, essentially, I guess you could bump up more damage over the time, but I like playing Annie as a burst. Like, you want to get as much damage as you can within those 3 clicks, and being able to finish someone up with your Disintegrate after you've landed your Tibbers.
I think those 2 spells are actually a little interchangeable, and they're more interchangeable based on who you're up against. And that's the thing that you need to take into account when you're playing Annie with these 2 builds, because they're both very similar, and the way that you're going to skill her up is more a fact of who you're playing against as opposed to how to play Annie.
For sure, and for the most part, though, Incinerate is probably your best option, because it does scale the most. Mm-hmm. It has the highest, base damage scaling goes up to 280 damage magic damage at level, or on your 5th rank, sorry.
Yeah.
And compared to Disintegrate, which only goes up to 245. So, a little bit more damage there, and if you're really looking for that extra burst, go for Incinerate first. If you're going more for the harass lane, you want to definitely pick up maybe Disintegrate because...
or if you're getting laned out. If you find that your opponent, maybe significantly better and is laning you out or is doing a really good job of basically harassing you, you're going to want to pick up and level up Disintegrate first. And just basically farm to the best of your ability.
So basically that's what it is. And of course, get Summon Terrors any chance you can. And I always, some people grab Molten Shield right around level 4 or something. I don't bother because it's not an issue trying to get shield up early on. You have the lane phase, you have a ton of creeps next to you, and if you're a smart player, you're going to keep that stun up, relatively close to level 6 or whenever you need it. And I max out my Molten Shield last.
Well, I think the one thing to realize too with Annie is that because she's such an aggressive character, she's going to be getting a lot of early kills early on.
Hopefully.
Well, hopefully. That's the the best case scenario, I guess. But because of that, she's going to be getting a lot of extra experience in addition to that. So getting to actually the level where you pick up your first level of Molten Shield, I think that's level 13, I believe.
I can't see there. What we got? Yeah, 13.
Yes, so my memory serves me correct. But at level 13, it's really not a long way, and you'll probably reach that at around the 15-minute
you're solo
mark.
mid, you're getting XP from kills, or just getting a solid laning phase, you're going to be there pretty quickly, so don't even worry about having the Molten Shield. It really doesn't really help you in the game too much. So, now that we talked about our skill order, of course, maxing out Incinerate over Disintegrate for the most part, unless you're getting laned out, and it's really easy to last hit with your Disintegrate when you max it out first. So, either one, choose your order. Doesn't matter, just don't get Molten Shield. Builds. My normal build is on the left here. It's build 1. The build 2 is just kind of an example you can throw out there if you really want to be an aggressive early level 1, level 2, up to level 5, harassing a lane. If you know you're against someone who's a squishy AP as well, or even squishy AD going mid, having that extra 50 ability power right at the start is huge. And you can really take down an opponent fast at level 1. And but for the most part, I would generally run boots and 3 pots because you have a better laning phase. You can stay in that lane if you get harassed early for quite some time. And your CS is going to be up there. You're going to keep in that lane, have that experience. You're not going to ever fall back really. And I choose boots pretty much 90% of the time, unless I know I'm against a certain class that's best to play.
Or if you're going for a level 1 fight. If you have a strong level 1 team and you're going for a heavy invasion into their jungle before the game starts, I definitely go for that build. The other thing to remember, too, is if you have a CV on your team, Clairvoyance, as we talked about in our previous shows, if you have that, they should be CVing your opponent's base right away just to see what the other AP mid is going.
For sure, yeah. If they're running boots and 3 potions, you might want to get boots, 3 potions as well, because then it's going to be more of a laning phase where you're trying to last each other out and see who can actually go back first and get the advantage.
Exactly.
So you don't want to fall back by getting, amplifying tome or
those extra 2 potions make a huge deal if you're trading blow for blow.
Exactly. So 1 potion with amplifying tome, it could work out. You might have enough damage to just keep them back, but it's just all dependent on the game, and you can kind of judge it for yourself. But the normal builds, you want to really get your sorcerer boots right away because it's such a crucial item to have. If you know you're not having problems landing that damage, go for Catalyst first. You really want to build into your Rod of Ages as soon as you can. I usually hit Rod of Ages on an average game, usually around the 14 to 16 minute mark. Complete the Rod of Ages, and then finishing my boots right after the Rod, just because I want to get that extra AP, that extra health and mana.
Well, you want to get that Rod rolling.
I want that Rod rolling I want to max it out as soon as possible. And after that, I'm going to build into... I usually rush Rabadons after I get my boots. Yeah. Rabadons is huge. It gives that massive 140 ability power plus, 30%? I think it is.
Yeah, 30%
of your total AP. So it really stacks.
That's pretty much a staple for any AP caster. So.
And then from there, it depends on the team. If you know you need Magic Pen, go for Void Staff right away. If you're having trouble surviving, or you're getting harassed by a character that has an ability to close distance on you, pick up Hourglass.